Black drivers are disproportionately stopped by police officers across the U.S. A growing body of research shows black drivers are also more likely to be searched or arrested. Scientists are trying to understand how and why some traffic stops escalate, and they say important clues can be found in the first 45 words spoken by the officer. Here's NPR's Nell Greenfield-Boyce.
When a police officer walked up to George Floyd in May of 2020, Floyd was in his car. Jennifer Eberhardt is a social psychologist at Stanford University. She says while millions of people know how Floyd was killed after police pulled him from the car,
very few people are familiar with what happened before he was removed.
Body cam video shows that the initial contact with police came when an officer walked up and tapped on the car's window.
You see your hands?
Man, man.
Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand.
I'm sorry.
Let me see your other hand.
Floyd apologizes to the officers who stand outside his car window. Floyd requests the reason for the stop. He pleads, he explains, he follows orders, he expresses fear, right?
What do you do? Put your hand up there.
Every response to Floyd is an order.
This pattern of abrupt orders and no explanations also shows up in a study Eberhardt and some colleagues just did, comparing police car stops that escalated with those that didn't.
Given the racial disparities in who is stopped and searched and handcuffed and arrested, we wanted to focus on black drivers in particular.
She and some colleagues got body cam footage of routine traffic stops in one racially diverse mid-sized U.S. city. For privacy reasons, they won't say which one. They examined over 500 stops of black drivers and compared the first moments of those that ended with a search, handcuffing, or arrest with stops that didn't go that direction. It turns out there was a clear difference in the first 45 words spoken by the police officer. Eugenia Rowe is a researcher at Virginia Tech.
Something really striking that we found is that stops that escalate are nearly 3 times more likely to begin with the officer giving an order to the driver.
Stops that escalate are also less likely to start with the officer giving a reason for the stop. And black men seem well aware of this, because when the researchers asked nearly 200 black men to listen to audio from the start of police stops,
we found that the officer's initial 45 words really significantly swayed black male participants' perception of the officer and their anticipation about how the stop would end, including possible use of force.
This study appears in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Tracy Mears reviewed it for the Journal. She's a professor at Yale Law School. She says if so much can be gleaned from just the first 45 words,
it's possible that that's also telling us that that officer had other motivations for stopping the person in the first place.
Especially if the officer doesn't explain why. Mears points out that in the 1-month period covered by this study, police officers in this undisclosed city stopped more than twice as many black drivers as white drivers. And stops of black drivers were far more likely to escalate. Nell Greenfield-Boyce, NPR News.
You don't need a research study to know this to be true. All you have to do is ask black men. Okay, Aston, so you just heard that piece. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts about that, it is very accurate. I say the first 2 questions is you know if you're gonna get pulled over or not.
Right.
I mean, you don't get arrested or not. And it's like, you could do everything right and it will still be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They will find anything, like the smallest thing, they will find something dangling from your rearview mirror. That they say that, no, that's illegal. It's a distraction. If they can't find nothing, they will literally find the smallest thing.
Right. So
give you a ticket.
What are your thoughts about compliance then? I mean, is it still at least possibly save your life or freedom in a moment?
It's yeah, but no. It's a gray area.
Right.
I noticed like the years going, we're getting into like the future type shit, and it's like it's every man for himself. It's it's getting real in the field to where things can escalate within seconds, and it's where depends how the cop is, depends how his day has been, depends if he's in a divorce or not. It all comes into one play.
So he's bringing his problems to his job.
Exactly, and they have power to where they can take their frustration out on on innocent people. It's crazy.
How much of it do you think is just ingrained as part of like not only their training but societally, like just as far as like how we've just been perceived in society for hundreds of years?
It's it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Right.
Yeah, especially for us.
Yeah.
They know that we more of us is getting is waking up to reality.
Yeah.
To where it's one day it's gonna rise up to a point where it's just gonna create chaos.
Yeah. You grew up in California, so did you see it pretty aggressive or?
Hell yeah, I saw it aggressively, especially when I was in high school.
Okay.
It was bad in the early 2000s.
So did you have frequent stops, searches?
Yeah, especially going to school. Yeah, I got stopped and searched all the time.
Okay.
I got pulled over multiple times to where they say you fit the description. Yeah, that's one of their favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Yeah, there's no way I fit the description of of a 6 foot guy that have a beard. I'm
right.
under 6. I'm under 5'7". So
right.
Come on now. Yeah. So it's wild. Yeah. They'll find anything to pull you over. They'll find probable cause because a lot of people smoke weed in their car. So they have a chance to find to search somebody's car, and especially if you're on probation, it's even bad. It's even worse.
Right. Because it's effectively changing your life permanently.
Yeah, and they can search everything if you're on probation.
So we were talking earlier, and I made the point about comparing it to like sexual assault with women. So if we have to believe all women, do you think that it's fair that we believe all black men?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's like damn near the same thing, but to everybody else, it's a thin line. It's a gray area, but it's a touchy subject, put it that way.
Do you think that's more gender based or
gender based now?
Yeah.
Now, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said that.
It would have just been ethnicity.
Yeah, because we gotta worry about the trans and all the gay shit. It's like, it's like you gotta watch what you say, gotta watch what you do. Yeah.
So I think we get believed a little bit more because we saw the George Floyd, because we saw the Rodney King stuff. But I agree. I think we're a ways away from like any sort of real solution. But
there's not no time soon.
Right.
I know that for a fact.
Right. All right, man. I'll let you get back in. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
On that subject.
Yep. So you just heard the segment. So
I gotta introduce myself, or just,
absolutely. However you want to run it, man.
Okay. Is ready?
We're rolling. Yeah.
What's going on? So this your boy, Cat Coleman, and I'm with my guy right now. You know what I mean? He let me check out this video. You know what I mean? And he was talking about the police and how they're more likely to pull over. It's totally different from a black man than a white man. It's totally different. The same type of treatment they get when they get pulled over. And I believe everything that they saying is true. Like, I mean, even for me, when I have got pulled over, sometimes I'm just probably even scared of what they gonna do. I'm probably not even scared of what's gonna happen. Like, you can go to jail, that's nothing, you get a ticket, that's nothing. But other than that, like, depending on how I react is how they gonna react. So I know for myself, keep cool, just be cool. Then sometimes it's not always like that though. Sometimes you do have the ones who be like, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? And you're like, what did you tell me? Hold on, I'm not a child. Or, you know, it is totally different from, you know what I mean? And then everybody says, oh, if you don't do nothing, they won't do nothing. Yeah, that's true, but not all the time for black people. For white people, yeah, but for black people, not all the time. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. You just, it comes, it's give and take. But I believe that is absolutely true, that it's totally different within the first 45 words, or within the, shit, to me, within the first 20 words. They'll let you know if you're going to jail, you're getting arrested, or if they aggressor type of police, or you can kind of figure out what type of police you're dealing with, you know what I mean, at the same time. So I totally believe that it is really harder for a black man to basically get out of anything when you get pulled over. You can, like, even if you don't even smoke, get out the car, let me search your car. Like, bro, what the hell? You smell probably a black and mild or a cigarette, but you know, it's just our stereotypes. We stereotype is we're doing something wrong. We have drugs, we have liquor, we have warrants, we're up to no good all the time, and that's not true. That's not true. It's a lot of black men who have their stuff together, who's really on point, and who, you know what I mean, who really take care of their business. And you could still take care of your business and end up on the wrong side, like, you know what I mean, so I do believe that is true, just depending on the situation that it is. But I do know it's true that shit, any black man, it don't matter, any black man can get it. Shoot. So yeah, I too believe that, man. In my opinion, is really strong about it, you know what I mean, because we grew up to not like police. That's
and you grew up here, right, in Phoenix?
Born and raised, yep. Born and raised in Phoenix. You know, I have encounters. I had, you know what I mean, and I'm been beat up by the police. Different times, different circumstances. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Sometimes I could be in the wrong, sometimes it wasn't. But for the most part, I know that dealing with police out here, it depends on you. You'll know what type of police you're dealing with. You'll know if he's an asshole, or if you'll know he's just doing his job, or you'll know if he's just really looking for something to get you for anything that he can get you for. So, you know what I mean, you just gotta know. I know how to talk. That's the one rule. You have to know how to talk and know how to. And then sometimes, you know what I mean, even that don't work. Even just know how to talk. They can be like, hey, well, you're doing something wrong, and put you in the headlock and put your head behind you. You know what I mean? You know, it's man, being a black man in America getting pulled over, and the stereotype of us doing something wrong is already high. So, you know what I mean? It's everything that they say is true. You know what I mean? You just got to know how to just be smart about your situations, and, you know what I mean? Know how to, you know what I mean, know how to survive. Shit, so, yeah, my opinion, from the outside looking in, from the inside looking outside, is that, yeah, we're highly targeted. It's black males is highly targeted more than anything when it comes to getting pulled over. You know what I mean? In the first 45 words, 20 words, you'll know what's going on. For you gonna get away, you gonna go home, you gonna get a ticket, or you going to jail. Or you gonna get beat up. Try to run, you get beat up, or you get shot, or you get tased. You know what I mean? So either or, you know, yeah. All right, no, just being black, you know what I mean? Not making no excuses for any other race, but just being black, it's always just hard to try to, oh, you're black, you got pulled over, you know you going down. You know what I mean? And that's not how I continue to myself to think, and my son not to think like that, because that's not always how it should be. But it's more of these police who you're dealing with first. So they may be scared. They may be scared because they don't know what's going on. You scared because you don't know what's going on. You know, it's just, you know what I mean, it's really different. I don't think white guys have the same problem or same, you know what I mean, same stuff as, I mean, some do. I can't say all white men the same, but some get treated like we get treated just as well. And, you know what I mean, they understand, so.
Cool. Any solutions?
My solution is probably, I don't know, I just stay safe, man. Just try to, I don't know, it's hard to even just try to say, like, okay, stay safe and stay out of trouble. stay away from police. Like, our thing is, I don't want to deal with police. I don't want to have an interview with police. I don't want to talk to police. I don't want to look at police. Anytime I get a chance, I don't want to have nothing to do with police. And not saying that they're wrong. It's just me as a black man, like, you know, I don't want to talk to you if I feel like I'm doing something wrong talking to you. Because every time I talked to you before, I was doing something wrong, or you was citing me for something. So if I ain't doing nothing wrong and I'm chilling, I don't want to talk. I don't want to do anything.
How do you tell your sons to deal with police?
Man. So I always tell my son, be mindful of the words that you speak, because the words that you speak is very powerful. So be mindful when you even dealing with the police, or when you dealing with a situation within an instance getting pulled over or something like that. Just be mindful of what you say and how you say it, because what you say and how you say it can be if you're going to go home or you're going to go to jail. So even if you ain't doing, just always try to talk with respect, and always try to, you know what I mean, give another person respect. You know what I mean? That's why I tell my son, just try to, the more respect, and even if you talk to somebody and you feel like they're not respecting you, or they're not on the same level, just stop talking to them. Just be quiet. Don't even finish the conversation. You know what I mean? Sometimes, but then when you're dealing with a police officer and they ask you certain stuff, make sure you tell them what they want to hear. Tell them the truth. If you're doing something dirty, then you know you're going to get. You have to. Your actions is. You know what I mean? Your actions. Whatever you're doing, you're gonna have to. It's an action. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to do something else after that. So I always just tell my son, be mindful when you're talking to police, or when you're talking to anyone.
That's wise words, man. I appreciate it.
Words is very powerful.
They are.
You know what I mean?
They are. Cool. Anything to wrap up, or you got it?
Man. Man, we grinding, man. Man.
I appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Malik Frazier. I'm 25, and I'm from Mississippi.
There we go. That's the one part that I wanted to make sure that I got, because we've got some regional differences here. Yeah. So what was your initial thought hearing that piece?
Something I'm a little too familiar with, coming from my background. Growing up, mostly I'm originally from Arizona. Left here about 6-7 years old. You know, obviously don't know too much about the world. World doesn't know too much about me. Moved to Florida about when I turned about 7, and I moved from there to Mississippi about 10 or 11. So most of my preteen, adolescent years, all the way up until about 24, all I know is the South.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. What was your experience with that, as far as the police? Did you have early interactions at a younger age, or when did that start?
Like I was telling you earlier, one of my first experiences with police and the way they treat us, it was my first or second year in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I was walking back from a friend's house, probably about 7, 8, or 9. You know, it was pretty late, and the police were driving by and they stopped me, you know, and they're asking me questions. But mind you, I'm 10 years old, and they're asking me and treating me like they already knew I had drugs on me. You know, and they see my backpack, and the only thing they were concerned with was my backpack. You know, and I'm telling them that there's nothing but homework and schoolwork in my bag, and they weren't buying it. So these grown men decided to take my backpack and dump all the contents on the ground, seeing there was nothing in my bag, and proceeded to just drive off and let me pick all my stuff up off the ground. And I had to walk back home and tell my parents what just happened, you know. And that's kind of where it's like, am I gonna be telling the same story to my kids, you know? And I think I have a different outlook, because I have come from the West. I've come from Florida, and I come from Mississippi, and it's a little different in the South, you know, like
Sure.
Going to certain football games in certain counties and stuff like that, they still have colored only bathrooms and stuff like that, you know. Like, it was just recently that the Confederate flag was replaced and stuff like that in Mississippi, and you know, it's just, You know, it's just I see my friends go through the same thing, and a lot of them, they've been going through that since they were born and raised in that, you know, and,
Sure.
and that's something that I was brought up in, and I got to, you know, I got to see it from a different perspective. And it's weird because you would think they don't. It's complicated because, I mean, you see the long hair, you see a lighter skin, lighter complexion and stuff like that, but that stuff does not matter at all.
Right.
You feel me? They still see me the same way. I even talk a little different. That shit does not matter at all, you know. And I see it in my aunties, you know. My aunties, I did a lot of research. Like, my aunties were slaves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a lot of my aunties, like, they had slave numbers, and you know, and they would tell me stories, and my father would tell me stories and stuff like that, and I can always remember we used to go to the Delta, or like where the plantations used to be, and that's where my family's mostly from. And I used to remember swinging on this tire swing all the time as a kid, man. And it wasn't up until I got older that I realized that that was the same tree that they were hanging us from. And we're swinging from it and stuff like that. It's just, you know, stuff like that, man. It's just...
Yeah. You paused the tape almost immediately. Speak to what was going through your mind when it came to that part.
It's just weird how they're studying us like we're animals, you know? Like, almost how you study animals in the wild is like how they're studying us, how they're getting racism is starting to become scientific education now.
Right.
To where you can go to school and you're studying how black oppression and white supremacy is a thing, you know, and it's obviously it's something that people are aware of, but why, if you're aware that you're doing it, why is nobody acting on it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I get it, it's not supposed to be that way. I understand, like, it's just weird, like psychology, like how psychology is the study and the pattern of the brain and human behavior, you know, and that's what I want to go to school for. So I understand, like, that the mind and everything can be patternized, and even they realize that racism is now patternized and it is systemic, and I don't really know how to put it, you know. It's just...
What would be your best piece of advice when pulled over?
Know your laws.
Mm-hmm.
They prey on ignorance. Obviously, I feel like African Americans, and not even just African Americans, a lot of minorities don't get the education that they're supposed to, you know, and they prey on ignorance. They pray that you don't know your rights. They pray that you don't know what's going on, you know, so they take advantage of that, you know. Like, of course, I was 10 years old. I didn't know that they violated my rights. They weren't supposed to search me, you know what I mean? I'm a minor, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, I feel like you want to say comply, put your hands up, do all this, but that stuff doesn't matter, man. Like, a lot of times it's... I don't really know if I can give you any advice, because I don't think there is any advice on how to avoid it. Because if they want you, they want you, and they're gonna find a reason why to pull you out the car. They're gonna find a reason why your car smells like weed. They're gonna find a reason why there's alcohol in your breath, or you didn't turn your turn signal on in time, or you know, little stuff like that, little violations. That way they could violate your bigger rights, you know, stuff like that. So I feel like, if anything, just know your rights, stay calm, you know. A lot of times you can de-escalate the situation with just your demeanor, you know, and it's kind of sad that you have to reassure them that you're not a threat. You know, and it's kind of like how they're looking at us, you know, like we're all thugs, and we all, you know, that's basically, you know, just like how they look at us and how they perceive us. It's just, I don't know, you don't know me. So, you know, I don't know you, and I wouldn't judge you like that. So it's, why would you judge me? You know, and that's the question I always ask myself, is like, why do we get treated like that? Like I don't know any black people that hate any minorities or hate white people, or, you know, like I see a lot of videos all the time where a black person is standing up for a white person, but I see videos where it's not the same around, you know, and it's like we're full of love, we're full of knowledge, and we just want to share that with the world, but they don't want us to be who we are, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kings and queens, and that's just it. You know, if you know you're at the bottom of the totem pole, and you see other people at the top, I mean, that's what you want, you know. I mean, you look at all through history, like Alexander the Greats, and, you know, a lot of men that just want power, you know, but forget that knowledge is power. You know, land, how much land you own, or what, all of that doesn't make you powerful or strong. It's what you know about this world and what you could do for this world is what's power.
Yeah. Amazing. Any final words?
Just do your research. Honestly, just keep looking for the answers. They're out there, you know. I say read a lot of books, you know. Just read. Another thing, I was talking to a younger friend of mine, and she kind of just graduated, and it was just like how we were talking about the history. I just graduated probably about 7 years ago, and when she was talking about the history that she learned, it's just weird how in 5 years or less, the whole thing switched. So like how we were taught that Christopher Columbus came over here and discovered America, but what they're being taught now is that the Vikings came over here and discovered America. You know, stuff like that. So it's just weird how we're not aware of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just something that your parents probably aren't gonna know, that, you know, you're getting taught like different things, and all that stuff is regulated by the government anyway. So what do you think they want to teach you?
Right.
I'm a very intelligent and capable human, and everything I learned in school, man, was a lie. Literally everything I learned in school was a lie.
Right.
You know, like as far as holidays go, what this country was really built on, you know, like stuff like that. So I just say do your research, you know.
I appreciate it.
Don't listen to what everybody else says.
Definitely. I appreciate you, sir.
For sure.
All right. All right, so you just heard that piece. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's true. It happens way too much.
You're from...
I've been in that position before, so I know how it is.
And you're from Tulsa? You're from Oklahoma?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, so is there how's the tolerance as far as like between the police and the black community?
Not very good.
No?
No, we don't like popos.
Do you have you had, I'm sure, like, I'm kind of crazy for asking, but you have personal experiences like with being pulled over and what they're talking about in the studies?
Yes.
What has there been a common thread that you found as far as how that goes? Like, are the first 45 words, is that pretty correct, or what do you find?
I never really thought about it in the first 45 words to that. So that being said, yeah, they stir it up. They cause you to get riled up by the words they use towards you.
Right.
The way they say it.
So they're not pulling you over in good faith.
Yeah, most of them are crooked cops that do that. Crooked and racist.
What's your thoughts on when people speak to compliance?
I don't know, never really thought about it.
Is there a level of control that we should have being pulled over, even though you know what it is?
Stay calm and just try to cooperate. Just stay calm.
Is there any specific piece of advice that you would give to either your children or just younger men in particular when it comes to being out and if this situation happens to them?
Yeah, the younger generation like to pop their mouth off. So my advice would be to just keep quiet and just try to keep the situation calm. The younger generation, they like to pop their mouth off, want to ask all kind of questions, get an attitude, and that causes the officers to do what they do.
Yeah.
They're going to egg them on to act that way.
Right.
Give them the weapons to destroy themselves, just like they did Tupac. They gave him the weapons to destroy himself. That's what happened.
Yeah. Do you think there's any solution to all this?
Not really. It's going to continue to happen. It's been happening. It's going to keep on happening.
Yeah. Any final thoughts or parting words?
No, I just wish it would stop. That's about it.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate you, sir. I've been through it, and at the earliest age that I can remember being somewhat having police try to set me up was probably the age of like a junior high age. My first official stop and search was in high school, walking on my way home from my job. I had walked a friend of mine to her house, and then I was walking home to my house, and I had my Walkman on, and they almost ran me over for how close they got their squad car behind me. They stopped me, searched me, never said a word about what it was, why they stopped and searched me, and they kept going. And it was just like, okay, get out of here. But you're asked those 45 words. It'll come in a variety of things. It doesn't always have to be giving orders. A lot of times it's, what are you doing here? Where do you live? Things like that. They're letting you know that if you are in a certain area, you don't belong in this area. And we're letting you know by asking you, why are you here? These aren't uncommon tactics. And to say that you don't know why is highly disingenuous in a lot of ways. Maybe these researchers, just for the case of their study, say we don't know. Yes, we do. It's systemic. It's historical. It's been this way. This is not a new phenomenon. This is something that has been happening. This is something that Black people have been talking about and have been overlooked. And if we want to put this into context as far as how something historically can work against a group, why don't we look at this comparatively to how sexual assault with women goes into play? Believe our women. That's what we were told. Believe our women. Why don't you believe these men? What's the difference? Because it's societally acceptable to say it's okay. Because why? We've seen images. Images have been burned into the American and Western culture psyche as to what Black men are. And that's expendable. Living, expendable beings just walking around. And at any given time, you'll have a George Zimmerman, you'll have a Derek Chauvin, even going back, you'll have a Carolyn Bryant and her husband. It's not enough sometimes just to actually take the life of somebody. Sometimes just lying about them enough will do that. Campaigns put against people. So sometimes it's more than 45 words. But the first 45 will do. And I've been that person as well that had that, except it wasn't a finger, it was already a gun. 2021 maybe. And when you look, you're not looking into anything but light. You have a flashlight and a gun in your face. And that flashlight really puts you at a disadvantage because they're not looking to see if your eyes are dilated or anything like that. Are they bloodshot? Is there any signs of inebriation? No, it covers their identity. Good luck asking or trying to get a badge name or number. And if it's not the case of not telling you because you're blinded by a flashlight, I've seen the arms crossed so high up over the badge and number, you can't get anything. And they get out of there before they tell you, because any cop that's doing this knows that they're, on some levels, they're violating your rights, and they don't want any part of this to trail back to them. And this is the problem that so many people have when it comes to the culture of Black America dealing with the police. Overseers, officers, same thing. Overseers were the people that oversaw slaves. You had designated slave catchers. These are like what the early forms of policing were, especially for the Black community. And it's not a secret. We know this historically. And then when you had problems like the Watts riot in the 60s, well, the police commissioner at that time was recruiting Southern law officers or former military men to come and be part of the police force because they knew how to forcefully deal with Black people. This is not something that's astoundingly new in a recent survey. But I would like to hear them speak to the Black people who they had listened to those things. And I'm sure a lot of people, grandfathers, their sons, and their sons, at least 4 generations, have heard the same lie told. I'm stopping you because such and such happened about a mile away a few minutes ago, and you fit the description. Anybody hear that one before? Leave it in the comments. Anybody hear that one before? I have at least 3 times. At least 3 times. And being handcuffed? Okay, yeah, nothing new. Nothing new. Handcuffed? Yes. Sat in the rain? Yes. They rifle through your car? Yes. Guns pointed at you? Yes. Yes. And the whole time, those 45 words, it's where they play the game. Because again, they bark an order at you to catch you off guard and possibly, hopefully, put you in a defensive posture. And I say this not for all police. I'm talking about the ones that know what they're up to and know what they're trying to start. I've been pulled over, dealt with a lot of very, very upstanding people who are in uniform and treated me extremely humane. But what we're talking about is that study. And it's not a matter of being, in the case of, being suspicious. I was suspicious because I was driving a very nice car that I owned at the time. That's why I was suspicious. My plates, had they run my plates, would have been fine. My plates were fine. My registration was clean. My tags were up to date. Didn't have a busted light, nothing. By the time that cop pulled me over, he was in my window yelling at me before I could do anything. But guys, you have to survive the encounter, because they're saying those things to make you react in a defensive way. And the second you do, it's over. I'm not saying you'll end up dead, but the second you do, you've fallen into their game. If you don't have any weapons on you, don't get offended. Just say no. If you don't have any drugs on you, don't ask, why do I look like a drug dealer? Just say no. Because at that point, what we're doing when you fall in for that and you get in combative, and I've done it before, is you're letting your ego give way to what's more important. What's more important is your life. What's more important is that the people you deal with will survive, that your survivors won't be your survivors. They're people that you will go home and see. And when we listen to the George Floyd one, sometimes you can see it doesn't matter what you say. If they are out for you, if they are fully in the hunt, if they are of bloodlust, then there's not much you can do. But don't give reason. And I get it. Somebody's going to say, well, why should we have to comply? Okay, cool. Don't. But what does that get us? What has it gotten us? It gets us dead citizens, exonerated police, and they will bring up anything that they can find about your past. That time you got suspended in junior high school for sticking a wad of gum under the table, and you had to, they'll find it. And that's what they're going to, the 45 more words, that's what's going to be written about you in a very short order. And it's just going to point to what you did wrong as to why that cop was now justified in doing what they did. Even if this was a 10-year-old thing that you did, 20-year-old. How old was George Floyd, in his 40s? Granted, I know he had something more recent. Rodney King had stuff more recent, but none of that should ever justify why somebody ends up beaten severely or murdered. Not by trained officers, not by people we say and are giving our trust to, who have supposedly gone through rigorous training and taking a sworn oath. And why is this further exhausting? Is because it's not so much they do it as like rogue or just bad people and then they are punished for it. They're not. That's the final insult. That's the final insult. 45 more words come in the form of a judge telling people that that the officers that murdered their loved one or beat somebody half to death are not guilty. That's the final 45 words that push people over the edge. And then we get to call everybody else rioters or, when they're protesting. Okay. If you want to know, ask. Guarantee, ask somebody that you ask a black male. Just like if I'm going to go back, I'm going to use the RACE and make an equal to RAPE. Ask a woman how many times she's been accosted or had somebody try to do something, or has she survived that? It's very similar with black men if you ask them about run-ins with police. But do we want to know that? Do we want to know that? And if we do want to know that, are we going to give it the same amount of effort and energy when we're saying believe all women? And I'm not saying anything against that movement. I'm just saying, if we're asking to believe one group, why can't we believe another? We're all citizens here. We're all citizens. But to act like we don't know why, yes, we do, because the campaign has been on since the movie Birth of a Nation. They painted a white man's face as a Union soldier and had him chase a white woman around, and she jumped off a cliff rather than succumb to the ravagings of a black man. And then what happened? The Klan came. Look this up, 1915, if I'm not mistaken. It's the movie. This was the original social media. That movie was played in the White House, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Woodrow Wilson gave it a thumbs up. The president of the United States gave it a thumbs up. I could be wrong historically as to who the president was in the year, but I'm not wrong with that movie and what happened in that movie and what they portrayed and what they said. And it's based off a book called The Klansman, where they glorified this sort of behavior. And in that time frame, the Klan had its highest recruitment percentages, I want to say ever. So we're not in the dark as to where and why this happens and how it starts. Even if you take that movie out of the picture, what do you see in almost every movie where there's a person of color? They are depicted generally as a savage. They do it with the natives, with Hispanics. Asians are generally just lampooned. But blacks, no. We've been pimps, drug dealers, hustlers, sexual assault artists, thieves, you name it. You name it. And of course, there are people that do that in real life, but aren't there of all walks? Aren't there of all generations? Aren't there of all demographics? 45 words. I've spoken more than 45 words, but I can guarantee you if you ask somebody being a man of color, if they've had this, they're going to tell you probably in 45 words or less, very succinctly, yes, it's happened. And in great detail. And I'm sure in those 45 words, you will be able to draw a line from one man to the next man to the next man who don't know each other to the next man, different states, different areas. Ask them. Ask your friends. Get on social media. Post that question. And see how many black men respond and say, yeah, this has happened. Yeah, this has happened. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen to other groups. And I've had some white friends that took real offense to this. Well, I've been messed with by cops too. Not on sight. Not on sight. Not, you had to have been doing something truly out of your element to really be bothered by police. Maybe if it was a city where that's a common thing just between the cops and the inner city youth or something. But just in general, I would want to see those percentages. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to people, but to stand up and say that it's like, again, going black men with women dealing with sexual assault. It's like saying, well, I've had dealings with women that were aggressive with me. It doesn't sit the same, and it's disingenuous to say when you're talking about one person's crusade or one group's crusade to be part of a more balanced and equal society, because it's not just the stop. It's what happens. We're fined more, ticketed more, put into the system more. It's a pipeline to prison, and it starts in elementary. So 45 words can be a teacher telling a young boy that he's done something especially wrong when he hasn't. This doesn't have to just be the police. It has to do with the people that we trust or are said to trust and are put in a position to work with us, not against us. And it's not enough for people to say, I'm against racism. You have to be anti-racist, which means you're actually fighting actively against it. It's not enough just to shake your head and say, oh, I'm sorry that happens. That sucks. Some police can be jerks or this or that. That's not enough. That's not enough. But I can't tell people, what to do or how to feel. But I can tell you that when I've had these run-ins a couple times with non-white friends, they're stunned. And they are more shook than I am. Because I'm used to it. Because I'm used to it. There's an expectation on some level that regardless of your economic status, regardless of your age, regardless of how you're dressed, how you're groomed, how you speak, they don't see anything else initially than your skin tone, and have already had it programmed. They've had it shoved so far into their psyche and their fears. That's the other part. It's shoved so far into their fears that they want to control something that they deem to be wild, reckless, or willing to fight back. Where are we fighting back from? If nothing was done this entire time, what are we fighting back from? What are you afraid of? And if you know me, then I hope you take it seriously. But if you've rolled your eyes by now or you've stopped watching, well, the people have stopped watching, so be it. But a lot of you have black friends, black male friends, or somebody's son, somebody's cousin, nephew, your children's good friend, teammate, schoolmate, neighbor. It can all happen. Somebody probably has said this in 2013, 2011, and then you get a Trayvon Martin, and everybody's shocked and stunned, but it was already said. It was already said. There are people actively hunting. Same way you have predators for children, same way you have predators towards women. So believe us too.